Hey everybody, hope you're having a good day. It's kind of been a commitment of mine to make a video basically, well, as much as possible. Every day would be nice. So I thought this might be a little more interesting of a view for you. But this video, I kind of want to go through 3 misconceptions that I had about recovering from an anxiety disorder, and frankly, just misconceptions on moving towards anything in life that I've learned when you're reaching a goal. Before I get into that, I bought this 5-speed manual car actually as a part of my exposure because I didn't like driving, and so I figured what better way to expose myself to driving long distances than doing it in a hyper complicated manual transmission. So maybe this will be a good little POV for anybody out there. Sorry, I have to look at my legs. But let's start with the first one. Something that I've definitely recognized, and it goes, a lot of these are kind of antithesis to some tropes that you hear. I commonly hear the first step is the hardest, right? Taking that first step is the hardest part of fixing really any problem, but particularly an anxiety disorder. So there is going to be some asterisks around these sorts of things, of course, but generally speaking, I found that to totally not be true. The first step is extremely hard. So I want to be clear on that. That is a very difficult step, but I would say that was certainly not my hardest step. It's about 10 steps deep when you get to the hardest step, in my experience, right? Because a little something called motivation wears off. When you're doing exposures, when you're working towards any goal, you know, the first step, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are pretty easy, but you kind of hit a brick wall in a lot of things once that the shine wears off the apple. Second thing that I have found, again, a trope that isn't true. Spoiler alert, the last one is a trope that is true, I found. But in recovering from an anxiety or OCD sort of thing, to not compare yourself to others. Now, I know this one's going to be a little controversial to some people, probably. And while in principle, I do agree that not comparing yourself to others is typically a good thing, I also believe that you do kind of need to look at others as a data point for maybe how you're progressing or what to expect. You know, for context, you know, I'm a believer that, you know, the 4-minute mile wasn't possible until someone ran it. The airplane wasn't possible until someone created it. So while I don't think that you should hold yourself to other people's standards, I do think it is important to look around the room every once in a while to kind of see what other people are doing, what pace they're moving at, and more specifically, what is possible. And to be clear, that's a pretty big reason why I started this channel, because, you know, as I make progress and work through my, you know, OCD, agoraphobia, anxiety struggles, you know, I wouldn't mind, you know, it's a challenge to anybody else to see, you know, what one man can do, another man can do as well. So, yeah, I do think in context, it is important sometimes to compare yourself to others, or at least be aware of what others are doing. And then the third one, getting straight to it, this is a trope that is totally true, though. Success is not linear whatsoever. It is not linear. There's ups, there's downs. The first step might be the easiest step, and this kind of ties into the last one. But the 10th step, you might do an exposure or have a day that's going very well on day 1, but then day 10 you totally slip back and you're at a 0 or a -1. So, you know, I say all of that to say that no part of this is linear. Now, the timeline trends upwards, right? So generally speaking, almost like a stock market, there might be some down days, there might be some really up days, but generally things get better over time. But day to day, it is absolutely not a linear situation. So, and this one wasn't particularly long, but those are definitely the 3 big takeaways I've had in my journey. And again, to remind everyone that y'all are, I did myself a disservice, and probably anybody that's following this channel, by not starting this when I was, extremely limited. I am extremely limited. I am still extremely limited, to be clear, but to get from not being able to drive a mile from my house to upwards of 15 miles in certain directions and drive a manual car around and whatnot. That took a lot of grit and willpower, and those 3 things I just told you, kind of learning those lessons. So I would inspire anybody that's thinking about stepping out into the arena of recovery, which I highly endorse and recommend. Make sure that you know that success won't necessarily be linear. I would take a gander around at what other people that are doing well in your space are doing. Just so you can have a reference point for what's possible. That's about it for y'all. Let me know what you think in the comments. I got to do the cheesy. Definitely subscribe if you're interested in this sort of thing going forward. I wanted to keep this one a little shorter. And we'll talk to you soon.